All right, so let's go from the top. Naya, what is it that makes a man high value in the dating market?
Thanks for asking. Yeah, I think nowadays we talk so much about high value men, high value women, and I think there is a misconception that a high value man is someone who is financially well off, drives a nice car, or can take care for a woman financially, he wears nice clothes and watches, have an expensive lifestyle. While all of those are really great external assets, when we're talking about what makes a man high value, I think it's more internally, the value he carries himself with, how he values himself as a man, like what are his values, what are his needs? Does he know how to communicate them and his boundaries? Because if you don't know your own value, it's gonna be really hard to exude that kind of energy in the dating space. So for me, if you ask me personally, what makes a man high value, it's all of those qualities. And the external assets are a bonus, but it's not really what makes a man high value.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, I guess what does a man do? What does he not do? When he's dating?
So again, if you know your own value as a man, right? What you stand for, where you're headed, you also don't really chase women, right? Because you know that you naturally will attract and draw in women who see those qualities in you, who see the values that they also want to match with. So he definitely doesn't chase, and he doesn't need to prove himself. He doesn't need to tell a woman on a date how much money he makes, what kind of salary he has, what kind of house he lives in, or what car he drives. Those are, again, very performative dynamics. So that is the one thing that he doesn't. The other thing that a high value man doesn't do in dating is that he doesn't overextend himself too much, over agreeing with a woman just because he's super attractive, he sees her as a 10 and then he sees himself as an 8. He agrees a lot, or he over accommodates, he changes plans last minute. Those dynamics, again, is something that a high value man doesn't necessarily do in dating. Because again, he stands his ground, he has his own opinion, and he creates polarity in the dating space.
For sure.
Yeah.
100% agree. And then if we think about it from the perspective of a woman, right?
Yeah.
What would a man be looking for in a high value woman? Let's flip it.
Great question. And I think it's the same, right? Because a high value woman is the same as a high value man. She knows her values. And when we're talking about what does those two make compatibility, is values compatibility, lifestyle compatibility, your emotional intelligence compatibility. And a high value woman is the one that matches what you do, as a man, and your lifestyle and your values. And I think for a man to spot that, he kind of knows hey, this is a woman who respects my time, my energy, my effort, the effort that I'm putting in to direct us. And you won't second guess, where do I stand with this woman? You won't feel confused, There's some sort of calm and clarity when you spend time with her. And she makes you feel, I want to grow, or you're really inspired even when you spend time with this kind of woman. Because otherwise, you will know after spending time with a woman that drains your energy, that makes you left confused, and kind of there's a lot of adrenaline, but underneath that, is there really compatibility match? So for that, I think these are the indicators that you should look for in a high value woman. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, that's definitely been true for me. With Katrina, and just my dating experience as well, it's so true. Yeah, that especially how you feel with them, and that feeling of certainty, oh, I'm not getting any mixed signals. I know where I stand with this woman.
Yes.
That's been so refreshing for me.
Yeah.
Having dating women where you get a lot of mixed signals, or and that tends to be as well, like you said, with the really beautiful women. It tends to be worse because they're so used to getting validated by men that they're just I can just treat you however I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. Yeah. Let's talk for a second about nice guys. Right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure you've dated a few of them.
Yes,
and,
I have.
Nice guys, how do they stop getting stuck in this cycle? How do they find a high quality, high value woman when they are just naturally generous and giving and loyal and kind and maybe a little bit too nice?
Oh, I love this question, because there are so many men out there that doesn't necessarily know the distinction between nice and kind. And I think the nice guy concept or syndrome has really got a bad reputation, because being nice right now in society, whether you're a man or a woman, it translates into saying, hey, I want your validation so much. I want to agree with you so much. I want to accommodate you so much that I'm kind of losing myself in this process because I so want to be liked by you. So it's more for them that they are doing all these nice gestures. And obviously, we do this subconsciously sometimes, and the intentions are good, but it comes from a place of needing to be validated, needing to be liked so much. Most women that are high quality, they feel this energy straight away of like, wow, you're not being true to yourself. Like, I feel you're not being genuine here. And it put a tremendous pressure on me because I'm now starting to not trust your opinion, trust your behavior, because I don't feel you. Like, who are you? Being kind, on the other hand, has everything to do with caring, paying attention, but having enough self-respect to say, I respect your opinion, but I also respect mine. And I know how to communicate them or assert them in a way that make you feel that I am respecting us equally, and that we can share opinions and share perspective. But yeah, so I hate to say it, I don't really like the nice guy, concept, because it's okay. It's more than amazing to be nice, right? But a lot of women feel quite repulsed by it, or they lose attraction as soon as they feel someone is too agreeable.
Interesting. Yeah. And there's so many like you said, nice guys. I remember even back in the day, I think in my early to mid 20s, one of my favorite books ever was called No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Oh yeah, I remember it.
Yeah, I think by Robert Glover, I believe it is. And that was a huge book for me. Actually.
Right.
Yeah, because I had a lot of that kind of like nice guy trait. My dad was a nice guy, and so yeah, it's an easy trap to fall into for a lot of guys, I think.
It's a balance between, like, I want to treat you well, but I still respect my own needs and wants. But it's hard because most of your life, you're not used to that, right? You're not used to feeling into your intuition, feeling, what do I want?
Right.
What are my needs? So it doesn't come naturally. That's the cycle they keep repeating, right? And to break that, you have to ask yourself, wait a minute, for every time I say yes, what am I saying no to? Or what parts of myself am I not fully revealing here? But those things takes a little bit more of that internal work, right? It's not just a surface level, go out and say what you want. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
But it's good to be aware of the dynamics in a dating process.
So we touched on this kind of nice guy syndrome, let's call it. What other things do you see that men do that make women lose respect for them? Yeah,
I think a lot of it is in continuation with this, because here's the thing. When a woman goes out in the dating world, and she meets someone and he presents himself really well, he's nice, he's caring, all of that is like good quality that she's also looking for. But then in the dating process, a few dates on, when she feels again that you agree with her too much, or if you are not really speaking up, if you kind of avoid tension or challenges, like challenging conversation, she starts to feel like, wait a minute, can you speak up for yourself? Are you telling the truth, or are you faking it? Who am I really with? Like, this is like the fastest way to kill attraction and respect. Because, if you lose attraction, you then also lose respect for the man you're dating. Because you're feeling like I can just say whatever and he will go along with it. And it's scary concept, because women don't want to feel this way. Women don't want to lead the process. Women don't want to feel that they have to be dominant. Like, that's the last thing women want. But if they feel like they have to, then the respect is really diminishing. So that's like one way where you can really kill respect fast. Another way in the process, in the dating process, when you get to know each other, is the other side of the spectrum, which is the controlling side of a man, right? Like telling a woman, like, almost like what to do, right, or what to wear, or what kind of food she needs to eat, or in the more dominant end of the scale, like that is like women, we often have to step into our masculine energy to survive, like to plan, to provide for ourselves, gain that freedom has been a big thing for women. We don't want to lose it too fast to a man we can't trust yet. So if that happens, if she feels like, ooh, this man is trying to take away my freedom, she's going to drop him. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that was pretty powerful. I mean, like the idea of it's taken women so long to get that freedom, and now they finally have it. They don't want to lose it to a weak man, or a man who, they don't fully trust, I think is a better way to say it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I think it's something a lot of men don't realize, because they hadn't gone through that process as women had, in terms of now we are financially independent, right? Like that has been, and even sexual independent, right? With contraception, don't really need a man unless we do want children, and even for that there are other ways now, right? So we are really truly a self, like independent unit. So when we choose to pair up with a man, it's like trust, respect, providing, like all of these that makes a man leading. So a woman can tap into her feminine and relax and be playful and have fun and be creative and flowing and using all of the energies that makes up feminine energy.
So I think a lot of the guys in the audience are probably going to love this, but you know, some people say, you know, first dates really matter, right? First, you only get one chance to make a first impression or whatever. What do you see men doing on first dates that really kills attraction with women?
Oh, I love this question, because yes, first impression really, you know, it's kind of important both for men and women, I think. And believe it or not, but like your date, like the first impression starts before the date. Because let's say you met online, let's just take that as an example. If she doesn't feel that you have been leading the talking process, so like suggesting where to meet, you know, at what time, and she feel like she has been the one who has been doing that, there's already a judgment there in terms of, oof, I am now planning this date, I am making this happen, he is not. So if she even credit you for that and say, okay, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, I'm gonna meet him anyway. So already there you're judged, right? Of like, oh, I don't know if he's leading. If you come and you haven't really put yourself together, you know, I'm talking simple stuff as how you dress, you know, how you carry yourself, even your posture, how you smell, your hygiene is super important. And those are just simple things that I think a lot of men don't think about.
Definitely.
But so many women, we are very intuitive and we are quite detail oriented. So the moment you walk into the door of a restaurant or park or whatever you decide to meet, she had already made a visual impression of you, you know? And she have already decided in this process right now if she's gonna want to continue having a conversation or not. So already that is important for you to know, that you make an impression about how you dress and how you carry your posture, and how you smell. Smell is absolutely important. And sometimes it's pheromones and sometimes it's your perfume, you know, it's as simple as that. But some women can actually be repulsed by some smell as well, just as men can be with women.
Yeah.
So it's the first impression, right? The next step is, if you on the date don't ask her interesting, intentional question to get to know her and for her to get to know you, again, you're not leading the process, because you're there to get to know each other, not in an interview structured way, in an organic way for you as well to vet out what kind of woman she is, right? It goes both ways. But if she doesn't feel like he hasn't asked me one single interesting question to get to know me, and not to even talk about interesting, basic question, you know, to get to know me, she's not gonna want to have a second date. So I would say, let's start there first, you know?
I love that. Yeah, because it's so easy to go into a date feeling pressure and feeling nervous and being like, oh, you know, what do I need to do? And I think that in many other areas of life, we prepare, right? We prepare for a test, we prepare for a job interview, we prepare, but so maybe a little bit of preparation going into a date can go a long way as well, right?
Yeah. If you're not used to organically and naturally to have these kind of conversation with your friends, you know, because for me, for example, this kind of interaction falls very naturally. I don't even think about it. I don't need to prepare. But I know this is just a practice of like, hey, if I want to get to know this woman, like what kind of questions do I even want to ask her, right? And not just flowing, because this is also another very popular word and dynamic in modern dating is, oh, let's just see where things goes.
Yeah.
Well, yes and no, right? Like we don't want it to be too structured, but we also don't want to just vibing, you know?
Depending on where you're at in your life, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm now talking to like the kind of man that wants a committed relationship, you know, intentional committed relationship.
Absolutely. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about emotional leadership, right? So what does a man do when a woman is getting very emotional? You know, does he hold, does he back away, does he give her space? Like when a feminine woman is getting emotional, like how should a man respond in that situation?
Yeah, oh, I love that, because I see so many good men not knowing how to hold that space when that happens, right? And naturally, because they're not used to it, right? Like they are used to be in their, maybe more in the masculine energy, which is, oh, let's solve this, or let's figure out like how to you stop crying or whatever. While a lot of the time when a woman or your partner is being emotional, like she's crying or she's sharing something really difficult, or she's maybe just completely out of control, like all she needs is calmness, right? And groundedness. You don't even have to say much. You just need to hold her or say, hey, I'm here. And I listen, and that's it. You know, like you don't need to do much. You don't need to panic. You don't need to judge her that she is dramatic, and definitely don't run, because if you run, it tells her I have done something wrong, or I am being too dramatic, or, you know, like holding space for someone just means I'm here to calm you down in this moment that you cannot soothe yourself, and then we can talk about it afterwards, right? Because obviously I'm not talking about those women that is really out of control and that is maybe also verbally abusive, right? We're not talking about this kind of upset, but like women are emotional creatures. So sometimes we're just expressing things in the way they come up. And that is very unusual for a lot of men. So they freak out a lot of the times because they're like, did I do something wrong? And, you know, like they start the whole internalization process instead of just saying, I got you, but it takes that calm energy to do that. But most of the time, that's really what she needs in that moment.
I love this next question because I think that it's something I struggled with for a while. How do you tell the difference between a woman who is just challenging you versus a woman who is like emotionally unsafe, right? How can a man tell the difference?
Ooh, yes. This question really hits home for a lot of men, especially men I work with, because I think a lot of the times when a high value man like sees a very incredible, beautiful woman, that already feels like 70% of the box has been ticked off, you know, because he's so, I wouldn't say blinded, but like he's like, wow, now I'm a high value man. I am with this gorgeous, beautiful woman. And it can really blind the process of like, wait, what qualities does this woman bring into my life? How does she make me feel? And, you know, what is our dynamic, you know? So a woman that challenges you is someone who makes you grow, is someone that can also call you out on your BS, but can also call you forward, which means that she can both say, hey, what you did there, I really didn't appreciate that. You know, you can talk about things in a calm manner, but she also inspires you naturally to be better because you see in her reasoning that actually makes sense. And maybe some of your words or your behavior were out of alignment with who you want to be as a man. That is a woman that challenges you in a good way, in a way that makes you really like want to step up and want to grow individually and with her. A woman that is emotionally unsafe is back to that. It's a chaotic energy and dynamic oftentimes. And in the adrenaline hides all of those unhealthy dynamics, right? You will feel drained. Like oftentimes your energy after spending time with her, you are exhausted, you're tired. You will question your own worth at times, like, hey, am I that bad of a person? You know, you question if you can trust your own decision. Like those are the dynamics that happens when a woman is emotionally unsafe because she is not emotionally available herself. So she mirrors all of that in you and she will make you feel at times you're not good enough. So the energy is really, really telling after you spend time with a woman that challenges you and a woman that drains you and makes you feel unsafe.
Beautiful. And you mentioned that about like energy. So how you feel after you spend time with that woman. Is there any of the things that you've seen over the years that you pick up on that also can help men to make a decision about whether the woman is just challenging him and making him better or whether she's unsafe? Is there anything else that you've seen over the years?
I think here's the thing, and men are very physical, right? Like usually physical touch is one of men's like first or second love language. So when a man is being like, or is having physical intimacy with a woman, like his judgment can be really, really clouded because the sex is amazing. So it compensates a lot for some of her bad behaviors or the behaviors that makes you question yourself, you know? It's like, oh, but this feels good. Then there must be something in this relationship that is nurturing, caring.
Right.
But you really, in the end, have to ask yourself, like, does he make me a better man, you know? Do I want to change some parts of myself because I feel like I'm becoming a better man by being with her, the quality that she exudes, you know, her behavior patterns. What kind of friends does he hang out with? I think that is also really telling. If she's usually, not having supportive friendships or nurturing friendship, how long have those friendships been? Like, that is another way to tell, like, this woman might not have her own support system, right? So you become her,
Right.
like, everything in that sense. So I think, like, those are ways you can really discern yourself, but it's really in how you feel as a man afterwards. Do you feel good about yourself? Do you feel like you have to hide parts of yourself? Do you feel like you have to be someone else to meet her? I think, those are the things that pops up to my mind right now when we're talking about, like, a challenging versus a woman that drains you.
I can see that being super helpful. I mean, like, for me, even a while ago, I was like, wow, okay, that's a good distinction. And a lot of men, they talk about they want a feminine woman, right? But what they don't often look at is, okay, if I want to attract a feminine woman, they don't think, well, how do I need to show up, right? So that's my question for you, really, is like, if I want to attract a feminine woman, how do I need to show up? How do I need to be in order to attract her towards me, rather than, her being in a masculine or whatever?
I love that. And I talk a lot about polarity in my work. And I think a lot of people don't know what polarity even means, right? And it also took me a while in my own industry to kind of like, I think this is what it means for a lot of men and for a lot of women. But when a man says, I want a feminine woman, let's break down what does that even mean to have a feminine woman by your side, right? And I think what they can boil it down to is like, nurturing, caring, beautiful, she has to look feminine. Like, that's kind of like the core of what I hear. But we have to go deeper than that. Because yes, both men and women can have feminine and masculine energy. So it has nothing to do with gender. Men in general have 80% masculine energy and 20% feminine energy, and women has the opposite. So if you are looking for a woman in her feminine energy, right? Nurturing, caring, flowing, intuitive, community-oriented, those are feminine energies. You have to think of polarity as then you have to then embody masculine energy, because a woman cannot fully be in her feminine energy if you are not creating that tension, right? A polarity of masculine. So what does masculine energy mean in this sense? It means steadiness, right? Decisiveness, direction is very, very important. Calm, productivity. Like, those are very, very masculine energy. Because when you are directive, what happens is that, then the feminine can relax and be like, he got this, Not saying that the feminine doesn't exude masculine energy at times, it does. But because in modern society, a lot of women have to teach themselves the masculine energy. I have to plan, I have to produce, I have to survive. So they overcompensate, actually, and they go more into their masculine energy. So when they see a man who is not more in his masculine energy than her, you're not going to create polarity. The only time where a woman can really relax is when a man is really embodying his masculine energy. So he's leading the process. Let's say I planned the date, you just need to show up. If you can do that, just even for like a simple example, she's going to show up in her like beautiful dress and looks amazing for you because he has time to do that now. She didn't need to call the restaurant or make the booking or think of a creative idea of how to meet, right? Like, it's as simple as that. But women really want to just relax and play because all day long, she has not done that. So when she's with her man, she wants to be attracted to you. She wants to dance for you. Like, all of those things, we want that. But if she can't trust your leadership, it's going to be harder for her to just tap into her feminine energy. And I was been guilty of that for many, many years, growing up with a dad that, was raising us all as male soldiers. So I from a very early age, I was in my very unbalanced masculine energy. And again, every energy has a balanced side and an imbalanced side, right? So if you are in an unbalanced masculine energy, instead of leading, you control, right? Instead of making decision, you dominate. It's very, very different. Once I learned that, holy crap, I was surviving on unhealthy, imbalanced masculine energy, I had to really like regroup and be like, okay, what is then healthy masculine energy and what is healthy feminine energy? And a lot of people look at me and like, yeah, but you're super feminine. Yeah, I am, but I can tap into the masculine energy like this because it's so default. And it's harder to tap into the feminine energy because when you go out and you don't meet many masculine, the masculine energy, right? You set that as the first of your energy.
Yeah, I've seen that with you. I've seen your journey and transformation with that. And yeah, I know that especially in the US and Northern Europe and stuff like that, it can be a challenge for a lot of women, right? Because like you said, they don't necessarily need a man anymore for all the things they used to do. And so it's interesting how in other countries, like in South America and places like that, it's not like that yet, right? Really, for a lot of women, you still see that polarization more strongly, I guess, in some cultures.
So this is where I'm gonna again, that's the surface level energy, right? That's what happens when you ask a man, what is a feminine woman? Oh, someone who dresses nicely, looks feminine, is petite, like whatever those descriptors are. But if you dive one step deeper into, let's say, the Southern culture of women that are very feminine looking and has a more easygoing flow, and they really know how to make a man feel like a man. When we dive into that, there's a lot of emotional ups and downs, right? Like emotional chaos in that. They don't know how to regulate their emotions. Like it becomes the imbalanced feminine energy instead. There's a lot of codependency. So all of those things we need to talk about, because that is the wounded feminine, and we also have the wounded masculine. But we need to understand these dynamics in order to talk about what really makes a woman feminine, or like the feminine energy, and what really makes a masculine energy.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of things are surface level, right? And it's very important to kind of look a layer deeper,
And this is the distinction between a woman that challenges you versus a woman that drains you. Because you look at the woman and she just fits the box of the feminine woman, look-wise. And then you see through all the other qualities, right? So there's a lot here we need to unpack. And also, that work, like, if you really want that high-quality feminine woman, you have to do the work to be that man yourself, right? And that takes work.
Oh, yeah.
So these are the dynamics that I see, like, that I work with clients. Like, it's like, you say you want this, what do you currently embody, right? Like there's a mismatch.
Yep, absolutely. So let's touch on boundaries for a second, because I think that boundaries are obviously a hot topic in relationships.
Yes.
How do you, as a man, how do you create boundaries with the woman you're dating, or the woman you love, or just, any woman, or I guess you could apply this to any kind of relationships, but specifically for romantic relationships, how does a man create boundaries with a woman without pushing her away or kind of like creating drama? I guess, because a lot of men are afraid, I don't want to create drama, I don't want to, create problems.
I think, boundaries is such a popular one of these buzzwords nowadays, right? And I think let's look at two types of men when we're talking about boundaries. Let's talk about the nice guys first, because nice guys are, as I said, mentioned before, they're not used to asserting their needs because they don't know what they need, don't know what they want. They were never taught to, like, how do you feel, by their caregivers. So it's gonna be such a journey for those men to even starting to assert boundaries in the first place, not to mention in a relationship dynamic where they feel like everything is at stake. If I speak up, right, I might lose her. This is literally what's going on in their world. That's why they don't set boundaries. That's why they don't speak up, because everything is about, I'm not good enough then, I am rejected, I am not lovable if I set one boundary. So with these kind of men, we need to start small steps, right? Like, this is a big stake, I say, like, scenario to start asserting. We have to kind of like pedal back much earlier in the dating process, or even like with friends and family, right? Because the thing is like, you don't want your woman to suddenly be like, wait a minute, what's going on with you? Like, you don't want your woman to get so used to you not speaking up, and then when you speak up, you either a little bit explosive or resentful, or even just like avoidant. You just spoke up once and then you never want to talk about it again, right? These are scenarios where I see a lot of people, when they just starting to speak up, they are really either, I said it, I don't want to talk about it anymore, and then they disappear, because it's such a big stake for them to even assert that one boundary. And then we have another kind of man that I would say more in the avoidance, like so not nice, but more like, ooh, I don't know if I even want this. They want love, but they are so afraid to lose it before they even have it. So asserting a boundary can feel like, wait a minute, what if I say this and I actually then get it? Where does that leave me? Because if I'm getting closer to the woman I'm now wanting to get closer to, I now have to make a decision. Wait, do I stay and run, or do I stay or run? Because the biggest fear is to be abandoned, right? So this is obviously self-sabotaging behavior, but that is why they're not asserting, and they disappear instead, and they avoid, and they think that is better. But it's obviously not helping any dynamic. So coming from a place of me, sometimes I am having a hard time understanding this because I come up from a place where we speak up about everything, and I have never felt fearful of speaking up. But I understand that this is, you have to look at it as like, there's much more at stake for these kind of men that having a hard time setting a boundary. But you have to know that women will respect you so much more when you set a boundary and communicate your truth. A lot of men think it's the opposite, right? Oh my God, she's gonna leave me, or she's gonna think this is too dramatic, or I'm too needy or too clingy, or whatever that is going on in their mind. While if you start speaking your truth, it might feel a bit unusual at first for the woman you're dating, or if you're in a relationship with her, but she will then now start trusting, wait a minute, he spoke up his truth. And that is so much more valuable for the woman, for the right woman, because she will then respect you so much more, because boundary creates clarity and boundary creates attraction. But again, our brain triggers to think it's the opposite, right? That's where a woman starts to respect you and trust you. Trust and respect goes really hand in hand when it comes to these kind of dynamics. If she trusts that when you speak up and it's the truth, it's like, okay, I feel you now, I need to look into that feedback. But communicating a boundary is also an art in itself, because I think if you're not used to setting a boundary, you can come from a place where you make the other person feel guilty or blaming or like judging them a bit, like, you made me feel this way, or why didn't you do this? Or, there's a lot of you. But when we communicate a boundary or any kind of communication in a challenging conversation, we have to come from a place of I, right? Like this is what we call nonviolent communication. I statements take responsibility for my own reaction and my own experience. So when I say, I feel this way when you did that, like it makes the other person feel less defensive, because I'm now taking responsibility for how I feel. It's not yours to take. That's what it really means in this kind of conversation. We're not putting it onto the other person to be responsible for if we feel unlovable or miserable or resentful, all of this. But then they know that this kind of behavior makes me feel this way, then they can think for themselves. Do I want to continue hurting my partner? Or shall we talk about this now?
Yeah.
So I statements are very useful, that we can just start easy in low stake situations. This is a way to do it.
I love that. And last question here is, if you had 30 seconds to speak to every high achieving man out there who feels unseen in love, what would you say to them?
I would say, this is very easy to say, but like, pay attention to how you feel when you have spent time with her. And I'm talking about first date, second date, third date. When you are in a long-term relationship, if you feel more drained, confused, exhausted, there's something off in the dynamic, In the early stage dating, if you feel the same, there's probably a big chance that this woman and you is not compatible in some way, So I really want men to start dating women that respects them, respects their time, respects their energy, respects their effort. If she doesn't do that and she takes advantage of that, obviously not a woman that is compatible with you. But all of this is a consequence of the work you do before, which is, do I even know who I am as a man? What is my value? So that was more than 30 seconds. But if you don't know your value, you're not going to be able to attract that kind of woman that matches your value. So that's the first step.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Love it. Love it.